Call the Metropolis City Council to order Monday, February the 9th, 2015. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Curzine.
Present.
Daughtery.
Here.
McManus. Midnight.
Here.
And Mizell.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we come tonight thanking you for each and every blessing as you have given each and every one here. Be with this council, dear Heavenly Father, as we move forward. Make each a decision for the betterment of the community. Be with our community, dear Heavenly Father, for the ones that have lost loved ones. Not only be with the sick, but be with the caregivers. Be with our armed service personnel, dear Heavenly Father, not only on foreign ground, but here in the United States. Guide and direct their lives and bring them safely home to their families. In your precious name, amen. Amen. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the 1/26/15 meeting, please.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Corzine, second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Curzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Ma'am.
McManus.
Yes.
Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, citizens' request. I think it's just old home week out there. First item, mayor's report. I take great honor in asking for a motion to accept the appointment of Mr. Mike Hall as alderman to replace Kim Brown in Ward 1.
I'll make that motion. Oh, second.
Motion by Mr. Daughtery, second by Mr. Barfield. Discussion.
Mayor, I'd like to make it a point that I know Mr. Hall for quite some time, but I think Kim would be proud to be succeeded by him.
And you know, in second, in saying that, you know, I appreciate that very much, Mr. Corzine. Times like this, you know, we'd all be not telling an honest truth if we could look over at the empty chair and think of what Miss Brown has been to the city of Metropolis for many years. And that's in the past, and now we have to move to the future. And I do believe Mr. Hall will be a fine alderman for his ward, not only in his ward, but I feel like he's going to be a ally to each and every one that sits at this table. So we have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Curzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Moving forward, Mr. Hall, if you and Miss Becky will come forward up here. We're going to have Jan swear you in, please. And we're going to get your picture too. So.
You'll just repeat after me. I, Mike Hall, having been appointed to the office of Alderman Ward 1
I, Mike Hall, having been appointed to the office of Alderman at Ward 1
in the city of Metropolis and the county of Massac,
in the city of Metropolis and the county of Massac,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of alderman
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Alderman
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now you can just have your seat right over there. And there's no backing out now. There's no return.
Way down.
And I won't have your name out anymore.
That's right.
it's part-time, he's already missed a couple roll calls.
Moving on. Next item, motion to adopt resolution for participation in the United States Government of Defense State of Illinois LESO program. So moved. Moved by Mr. McManus. Second by Mr. Mizell.
Resolution number 1.
Two, I think it is.
Resolution number 2, I believe.
No,
No,
we
you
don't put a
won't.
number on
No, you don't.
resolutions,
That's
just
what
on
I think you did.
ordinances.
Well, it's on the top of the paper, the reason why
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's why we do. Okay, I thought there was some special reason. Okay.
All right, we do have a motion. We do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine,
Yes.
Daughtery,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
McManus. Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item. Motion to accept the closure of Market Street from 7th Street to 5th Street for the purpose of the Flea Market Craft Show, Market Street Spring Fling on Saturday, May the 2nd, from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. as requested by Patricia Lewis.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Corzine. Second by Mr. McManus. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine,
Yes.
Daughtery,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
McManus, Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Under my report, we will be, several of us are going tomorrow to the, water plants to view that. We're gonna leave at 8 in the morning, so, we'll have reports, coming from HMG. Chad is actually going, so we'll be getting reports back to the city council and the members of what we found out. Hopefully, as quick as we can, we're gonna get back a recommendation on what we need to do first at the water plant and get input from everybody, and we'll move forward that hopefully within the next month or so. We can have preliminary to at least start someplace to get rid of the overtime and stuff on the facility over there. So we will be bringing reports back. Mr. Abel, myself, Ms. Suttles, Chad, and JK will, and then we're gonna meet the other gentleman from HMG at Sparta. Not Sparta, Assessors. Pinckneyville first. And then we'll be gone all day probably, so. No, you're not in charge. No, I don't think so.
Needs a phone call?
Yeah. I'll have my phone on speed
Oh,
dial. Just
okay.
call me. Next item on the agenda, and I don't know, Mr. You have anything, Mr.?
I was just gonna mention, I laid in front of you the, copy of the article. Some of you probably saw it came out in the Paducah Sun today.
Yeah.
It's written by an Ohio, writer. It's a AP article. It's not a locally written article, and it's extremely misleading. What it fails to mention, among other key points, are in Batavia and Paducah, they overbought. That's part of it. That's the biggest problem they have. They overbought. They bought 50% more than their maximum capacity, okay? Nobody does that. Paducah, maximum 150 megawatts. What did they buy? They bought 225. Prairie State and their own generating plant combined is 225 megawatts. And they didn't bid it into the capacity auction, so you got no way of paying for it, all right? I mean, you can call it Prairie State, but you can call it a chicken too, you can call it whatever you wanna call it. It's not. The other thing you have to understand is that this is the same group that had problems with Ample, Ohio. Ample, Ohio is the largest shareholder in Prairie State, by the way. And they didn't like something that Ample, Ohio did. This started out as a regional and political issue, if you will, in which they asked their congressman to get involved in investigating Ample, Ohio and some bonds they issued. And he didn't get satisfaction. In fact, he got voted out of office, and they didn't get satisfaction. So this is carried state to state. I mean, if there was ever a whipping boy, that's what this has been. But I wanted you to know we're prepared to see it. That's, it's not unusual. We've expected this. This is the same group that's trying to whip up stuff in the Chicago Tribune, St. Louis Post. It's really no big deal. The lawsuit they talk about from Batavia is going nowhere. I mean, chances are pretty good it'll get dismissed. And I really don't look for one out of Paducah, if you want to know the truth. There's just nothing there. It's not there. A lot of smoke and mirrors, but it's not there. Anyway.
So how many years is that gonna go on?
How many, well, as long as the environmentalists can continue to attack coal, basically, that's what, the biggest part of this group backed by several environmental groups, and, that's why they're called the Prairie State Haters elsewhere. It's mostly, you know, as long as, they didn't succeed, they attempted, during the permitting process, you know, preclude this, and they, Prairie State sailed through the permitting process, air permits, water, everything, and, so now it's come back to this level, but, you know, I don't know. You'd like to think that it'd be about over, but, you know, they've carried it into Kentucky, they carried it to Indiana, it didn't go anywhere. They've actually been to the Attorney General in Illinois 2 or 3 times, it's gone nowhere, okay? That's why you see it coming out as private actions from people who really have no standing to bring a private action. They're not parties to any contract. They didn't even, what was interesting is the people in Batavia didn't sue the officials of Batavia who made the decisions. They sued somebody in Indiana. It's silly. It's just silly. But
They didn't wanna lose any friends.
I guess not. I guess not. And the people that have made the decisions behind these investments, all of a sudden, I guess that's the way politics is though, all of a sudden, they're the ones that some of them that are still in office are wanting to criticize it even though they voted for it, you know, a couple of years ago when it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but that's just the way politics is, I suppose. But anyway, I knew you might see it in the Paducah Sun, and I want you to understand, once again, it's just no big deal. It's being played out more in the media than it is anywhere else, so. And it's not the source of Paducah's problems, okay?
Anything else, Mr. Abel?
No, that's it.
First items, committee reports. Metropolis Area Tourism Commission, Mr. Barfield,
Yes, sir, Mayor. This will derive from the January 13th meeting, and I will make motions on the following. We'll make a motion to accept the recommendation to fund the Superman Classic / ASA in the amount of $44,975.
Motion made by Mr. Barfield, second by Mr. McManus. Discussion. Hearing none, call a roll.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion to accept the recommendation to fund Southernmost Illinois Tourism Bureau in the amount of $2,500.
Motion made by Mr. Barfield, second by Mr. Mizell. Discussion.
Yes, Mayor, I think this is a waste of $2,500. Those people have done nothing for us in the last 5 years. I think we're just throwing more good money after bad, so I will be voting against this measure because of that.
Other comment, Mr. Mizell.
I disagree. We get more representation out of Southernmost, and we messed up in 2009 when we voted to take all their money away, and I'm 100% for it.
Other discussion.
Well, this is just a minimal amount. I mean, it doesn't add anything to it yearly or what, but this is supposed to be for advertising and so forth.
And I think, you know, hopefully we'll get our share of the revenue that
That's
is
the plan.
put into
Yes, sir.
Southern Illinois.
Yes, sir.
And, any other discussion?
This minimum amount entitles us to all entities that they have, and everything they have.
Doesn't matter. Yes, sir.
Benefit from it.
Yes. That's supposed to be the plan, Billy.
Yeah, that's right,
Shouldn't matter whether we give 2,500 or 25,000.
that's right.
So, and we've been on both ends of that, so I guess we'll find out, so. We do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
No.
Daughtery.
Yes, ma'am.
Hall.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
And tonight, we have Miss Maggie Howitt with us. She's the president of the Tourism Committee, and she may have some good news for us.
Oh, boy.
Good evening, how is everybody? the job to someone, and I have some resumes if anybody wants to look at them. I know that Charles is in it, and Mayor Billy and Rick. So if anybody wants to look at it, this is the best candidate that we thought would be a good tourism director for Metropolis. And she has accepted if the city council is okay with everything. And she will give a 2 weeks notice. And in addition to that, we met with Cheryl today and went over some line items that she's been working on and some things that are not finished. So we would have a good communication line for the new person whenever she starts. And we just want your blessing, and if you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer any of them.
Tonight, we're approving you to hire this person. Then after you hire, you'll bring back that name for approval by the council, is that correct?
I think,
Well, as far as the entity goes, it's my understanding that you guys were already okay with us establishing an entity and hiring someone.
Yes.
And after tonight's meeting, if you guys were okay, she would be hired, she would give her notice, and she would start working for us in approximately 2 weeks.
Okay.
So we're gonna be voting on somebody but not knowing who we're voting on?
Well, I don't think you really need to vote on it, I just kinda wanna inform you where we're at, and,
the position.
that the position's gonna be filled. I know you guys were, wondering possibly who we're looking at, and what step we're at. So we've completed a number of steps, and, we have a candidate that we think would be best for Metropolis. So
And
that's
they-
kinda what I'm really here for, it's
And
not
they
really.
have had the tourism people themselves, have a standing board. They've spent, I know at least 2 months probably, doing this. They actually interviewed 3
Yes, well,
personally.
yes, one didn't show, yes.
And they had we've gone through this a couple of 3 times, but we had I think they had a lot of good candidates, more than probably we've ever had before.
From all over too, that was a strange part.
Well, and I think they had I didn't sit in on the interviews, but, and the reason I didn't, I was invited. I didn't want any outside pressure put on the committee. I think they do a good job at what they do. And I think they fulfilled their obligation as far as making a recommendation. Now, anyone that's sitting on the council, Miss Maggie, I'm sure doesn't care to put those out in front of you and let you
Right.
see the names, you know. That's why we're here. But I think we as a council, if, under their, program, it's their duty to pick the very best person they can do, and this council approve.
But we have a good committee, we're going on their
Oh, yeah.
agenda, you know,
That's right.
and I got no problem with
Yeah, I
it.
mean,
Thank you.
this is what they're for, this is their purpose.
And Maggie has done a tremendous amount of work on her own on this, really. She has spent a lot of time on the phone, but it's well worth it. Thank you, Maggie.
But like I said, you're welcome to that. I mean, Maggie can hand it out, and you can put it in your files,
Yes.
and, go from there.
I'd like to see it, please. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Do you have enough for everybody, or?
I have one, so.
And I have one.
Everybody's supposed to be this.
I had one too, so.
I don't have a hard, I got it on my computer, so. Thank you. And Miss Maggie, you said they had accepted,
They have accepted,
all right.
and I told them that we had this meeting tonight, so I'm supposed to communicate with her later on.
Any
So
other
do
questions?
we need a motion in for?
No, we're gonna bring it back next time, aren't we?
Well, really, there's not,
do
here,
it.
let me explain something. You've set up a separate corporation, okay, the Convention and Visitors Group. They have their own board of directors, all right? And they have their own money, from this tourism tax, they have their own money now. This is just like, in the past, we were trying to do that with that network, but the network really never got off. Now they've gotten everything in place, board of directors, bylaws, tax ID numbers, unemployment ID numbers, they'll have their C6 or whatever here shortly that they have to have. So they qualify to write the grants themselves to the Illinois Bureau of Tourism, okay? And all they're wanting to do, they're going to the next step, which you've already put money out there for the tourism. They're going to the next step now, which is they've done their interview, recruitment, interviewing, selected somebody. They're gonna hire somebody, but they wanna make sure that they're still on board, that that's okay.
They
That's
want
what
your blessing.
They don't-
Okay.
You don't have to
Alright.
approve that
Alright.
person, you're just proving, going ahead and hiring the executive director. And then, because they'll have to approve the person, it's an employee of theirs, it's not an employee of the city.
I'll make that motion to take the recommendation to hire a new executive director.
Motion to accept recommendation is Mr. Mizell,
Thank you, Rick, for explaining that, very good.
No problem, no problem.
and second by Mr. McManus. To kind of explain just a little bit, Mr. Hall, the tourism network is made up of business people in the city of Metropolis. Miss Maggie actually represents the bank. We have several people, we have at least one from Harris. We have numerous people from restaurants. And the
Hotel.
funding, yeah, we have some from the hotel. The funding from this actually comes from a hotel motel tax that every room in the city of Metropolis is rented out. A certain percentage of that goes into the motel hotel tax fund. That's their money to be spent as theirs. If you saw on here, they will always bring it before the city council as a recommendation for like the Superman celebration. But they'll make the recommendation, city council will approve it. But that money doesn't have anything to do with our general fund. It is set aside just for motel, hotel tax use for events, tourism events. And every once in a while, we'll have something that is approved by the tourism committee that we know sincerely are probably not strictly a tourism event, but it is an event for the community and for the city of Metropolis. The only one I can think of is the youth fair,
Right.
which is a Massac County event that's gone on for a long, long time. I think we contribute, I wanna say $3,000. And we know that there's probably not going to be a bunch of people come to the city of Metropolis and stay over the weekend in a hotel for that event. But it is for the youth and it is money well spent, so, but 99.9% of everything that goes through there is generating motel, hotel tax money coming in to fund these events. And basically, that's what it is.
It's also been used as matching funds for state and federal grants
Yes.
to bring, actually, and it can continue to be for fixed improvements. For example, it was used partly for the bike path, okay? It's been used for the statues, it's been used for things like that as well, and it can continue to be used for tourism venues, if you will, not just events, but it can be used for attractions, if you will.
Dippin' Dots, we have some, yep, the chamber office up here. So, you have any questions, Mr. Hall?
No.
Okay, we do have a motion, we do have a second. Any other discussion? Call a roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
No.
Daughtry.
Yes, ma'am.
Hall.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Miss Maggie, you need anything else from the council? All right,
Thank you, Maggie.
thank you.
Mayor, that completes the tourism report.
Thank you, Mr. Barfield.
Thank you.
Moving on, water, light, and street. Mr. Barfield.
Yes, sir, Mayor, this is from the February the 4th meeting. Now I'll make a motion on the following 4 items. I'll make a motion to accept the purchase of cable from the light department of Brownstown in the amount of $5,625.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Barfield, second by Mr. Mizell. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will make the motion to accept testing meters with Midwest Meter in the amount of $1,002.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Barfield, second by Mr. Mizell. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will make the motion to accept on line swap to replace valve on 8-inch pipe supplying the fire protection line at the old glove factory on 17th and Market from IMCO Utility Supply in the amount of $4,275.
Second.
Have we ever found out anywhere we're shutting off at?
That's what the line stopped. We actually, what created all this was down at the old glove factory building, which Darren and Corey and them bought. They had a fire supply line out there.
Big one out there, yeah.
I guess undoubtedly it must have froze and busted. So then they realized they didn't have a way to cut it off without shutting down a lot of different things. So Corey and them put in a new valve on their side, you know, to regulate their line. Well, in finding that out, we still had a little leak out there. When we started isolating, turning this off and turning that off, it actually caused a whole section to be turned off. So we had to have that, I kind of wanted to, but I think I thought that. So we actually, and actually Corey, I guess, or Darren won. You know, we do have a lot of good citizens that have everything. Actually saw Rick today and they said, you know, we just put in $2,000 valve and they thought maybe their valve could control what we're trying to fix. And they said, well, you know, maybe you won't have to do this or that or something else. And they was maybe hoping that they could save us the money, which didn't work like that because we have to have a stop valve where we can put up in a new valve where we can isolate that section and stop a leak that's on our side. So that's what that's all about. So we do have a motion, we do have a second. Any other questions on that? Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will make a motion to accept the FEMA House Asbestos Inspection Contract with Freeman Enterprises Services Incorporated from the low quote of $4,800.
Second.
Oh, we had a wide range of quotes from $4,800 up over $16,000.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Question.
Sir.
Where we go from here now?
Okay, what happens is,
Full
Term down.
throttle.
they come down, they do that testing, they send it off to the labs. Should have a report back within a couple weeks. There's some paperwork they'll fill out for that environmental paperwork. That will identify the properties that they say are hot, if you will, or whatever. Once we get that paperwork, it should also identify what they expect the quantities to be there are. Then I'll sit down with Chad and maybe John Weeder and we'll revise the specs. Probably take the ones that are hot and group them together because it will require a licensed asbestos contractor removal specialist. Okay, somebody's got the license for removal and disposal. So we'll group those together and group the others separate and go back out and bid once we know. And those reports will be a part of the specs. Probably we'll need to make sure we have somebody on site, at least on those, that verifies that the asbestos and stuff that comes out does in fact go to the proper disposal site. So, you know, that's something we'll have to plan for a little bit more in the final specs, is making sure that we get things that, when they leave here, they don't just go down to Charlie Short's ditch, okay? those days are over.
So, are we going to, as far as bidding, are we going to just put it in the paper, or are we gonna contract the bidders first, or how you wanna?
We'll
The ones that we've already had.
We'll notify the ones that did submit bids, as well as we will still run it in the paper, and we'll put it back out. There were 2 websites also that we utilized. One's called, help me Chad, Dodge, there's 2 of them, I can't remember now. I know, I've got them on my computer, but there's 2 websites that, one's the Southern Illinois Builders Association, SEBA, and the other one's McGraw-Hill, that's what it is. And, we put it on their websites and, give it a couple weeks or so and take bids.
Chad, how much do we anticipate this costing us extra? Or do you not have an estimate?
I'll let you know when we know. There's a lot riding on the inspection.
Right, okay. Mr. Abel, I'd like to ask you, when we bid this, can we not bid this by the individual property as well as by the group? Because what I'm sitting there thinking is maybe one group will, pick up one and you keep the other ones competitive. And that way we can have the option either way, either one or the other or all.
Well,
It gives us an option.
when we bid them, anybody's
They
free
can bid 'em
anybody's
that
free to bid on them all, okay?
Now, I'm talking about just the ones with asbestos.
Well, they gotta be licensed to bid on the ones with asbestos.
But what I'm saying is if we have 4 houses that's got it, can we bid it as a group of 4 or individually? In other words, we may be able to get a better price if we do them individually. Then again, we may get a better price if one person's doing it all. You
Actually,
never know.
from what we've learned from talking to contractors, we'll get a better price the more we put into a group, because most of these are pretty good sized
Well,
contractors.
see, then that way we would also know how much we're saving by doing it that way. I mean, what's it gonna hurt? It's just them submitting another piece of paper or 2.
It might end up costing more on the paperwork side, is the only avenue there, because a different contractor, they'll have to submit the same forms. If you group it as one group, it's one packet. If you break it up as separate contract, that's 4 separate packets. And
They gotta charge more for the paper.
And the time to fill it out.
It'll be 5 packets.
Yeah.
These contractors, they have to bring in their shower wagons and so forth. So if you do it one at a time, that's 4 trips they'd have to make. Bring them all in at once, they come one time.
We will try to arrange it so it's all done at one time. I mean, whether they bid them individually or they bid them collectively, we'll try to arrange it so it's all done at once. We have been trying to make it so that there was minimal setup relocate cost by grouping them geographically, but,
In the neighborhood.
but unfortunately, if we've got some that are hot and some that aren't, that won't necessarily apply anymore. We had tried to, the original theory was break them into groups of 4 because local contractors could afford to bond those jobs, because these have to be bonded jobs. They can't be, these aren't the standard ones like we do when we do it on our own. They have to be bonded. They have to pay prevailing wage. They have to have workman's comp. I mean, we've already thrown out a couple of bidders out of the process in the past just because they didn't carry workers' comp. They couldn't bond, okay? All of that if we want to get FEMA reimbursement, we have to do that, okay? So that's why we broke it down into groups of 4. Now, we can do it individually. I'm a little concerned. Some of your ones, the further out they come, they tend to look at it as a package. The last, and frankly, have we gone to, first time or 2, the locals were actually probably cheaper anyway, going in at 4 at a time. I don't know. But we can look at it. Before we actually submit the bids back on the line, we'll let y'all look at them. I mean, but not bids, but the packet themselves, and let y'all look at it.
Mr. Barfield let in a while ago that this bid that we took, or that we were wanting to accept is $4,800, but we had other bids over $1,600.
$16,000.
$16,000. This exact same thing can happen if we lump them all together. Now you're also gonna be lumping it together where somebody has to have a whole lot more money to bond it. They've got us over a bridge and we don't have no leverage. If we do it individually, then we can say, well, okay, it's just too high doing it this way, we're gonna give this one here, and this one here, and this one here, and you get these last two. I'm just saying that we can paint ourselves into a corner here real easy, doing the same thing that we done with lumping all these together to be inspected. We went from 4,800 all the way to over 16,000. That potential is there for us to get hijacked, and we know as well as anybody that people like to stick it to the city of Metropolis anytime they try to bid with us.
Well, these will have to,
I don't know, I kinda disagree, Mr. Tonight. I think that we're comparing apples and oranges in this issue. Mr. Barfield brought up the 48, that was apples to apples. They were bidding on the exact same project. Here they'd be bidding on different projects, and unless we are experts ourselves, we're not gonna know if these compare. Because this house over here may have situations that are not comparable to this building. So this building may come in, 40% of that one. Well, that's probably, we would never know the difference. And so I'm afraid we're opening up a can of worms here. When we start looking at individuals, we can get confused and end up in a mess. Whereas this way, they're bidding against each other. And they're not bidding against us, basically.
FEMA was more accustomed, see, you just bid it off, if you had 12, you just bid 12
Yeah,
on
together.
some, yeah, that's really more custom, what's done elsewhere.
Now, I think we've had this happen in the past where we kind of compared apples and oranges, and we got confused amongst ourselves, and we really weren't sure we were doing the right thing at the time. Whereas I think this way, we are gonna at least be able to say to the citizens, look it, this is the best bet we could get for the project.
Well-
We're not gonna have these other contingencies out here.
Let me also point out, this inspection job is a little different than a demolition contract, okay? And the firms that do this range, you have guys that are licensed to do this, but they're not engineers, okay? You have other firms that this is all they do, and they're firms of PEs, professional engineers, okay? That's what we had here. On the high end, the 16,000 was submitted by a firm of environmental professional engineers, okay? The guy that submitted the low end is licensed. There may be, whereas this firm had 30, 40 engineers in the firm. This one, I think, maybe has one guy. I'm not sure if Mr. Freeman's even a PE. I know he's an engineer. He may be an engineer, and his dad came with him. But he holds the license. You don't have to be a PE, by the way, to have that license, okay? So you get a range partly because of the different, and it's more of a professional service and not a true contract. So you get a range based somewhat on the type of practice. That's why we went with proposals and not just strict bids on this thing, so we could check out their credentials and things. The firm that went on the high end predominantly does large commercial structures as opposed to residential structures. That's why I expected their fees to be a little higher. The two lower ones tend to do more residential. That was Summit over in Paducah and then Freeman. That tends to be their bailiwick. Although the guy at Summit I talked to, Jeff Goff, now he's a PE, but I think Summit's that division's fairly small over there that does that. I don't know. It's up to you guys. But like I say, when we get it done, this part, we'll bring it back. We'll bring you the specs, and you can tell us how you want to do it. I don't care.
Okay. We do have a motion, we do have a second. Motion by Mr. Barfield, second by Mr. Mizell. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, that completes Water Light Street report.
Thank you, Mr. Barfield.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, Police and Fire Committee, Mr. Carroll.
Yes, Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept the first addendum to the MABAS master agreement.
Second.
And that is done by ordinance
Yes.
It's number 2.
number 2.
Well, then we need to suspend the rules basis on its passage. So I'll make that as a motion.
Second.
What was that ordinance number?
Number 2.
2.
I'll make a motion, we suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2 upon its passage.
Yeah. That's okay.
Do you want to be?
Yeah, that's good.
Anybody?
That's good. That's good.
We do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine,
Yes.
Daughtry,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
McManus, Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.
Yes.
Okay?
I make a motion, we suspend the rules and place ordinance 2015.
Don't suspend the rules.
We've already
Second time.
suspended the rules.
Well,
Just pass this ordinance.
we pass ordinance 2015-2 as presented.
Second.
And that motion made by Mr. Carroll and second. That'd be fine, doesn't make any difference. Just to make sure you get it down there right. Okay, all right. We do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine,
Yes.
Daughtry,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
McManus, Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's all I have under fire and police, Mayor.
Next item, Park and Recreation, Mr. Carroll.
Yes, Mayor, we have two items to consider, and I'll make a motion, we accept change order number 2 in the amount of $5,916 for the Franklin Park pool improvements from Everett Strange Construction Company.
Second by Mr. McManus. Well, that's what I said, buddy.
I got a question. It's not gonna be the same floor of field like we had in Summersburg, is it?
I hope not.
Oh, boy.
And, in this motion, the 5,916 is included in the next motion also. It's not two different items, it's included. The 5,916 was actually, recommended and approved by this committee to proceed when they found the problem down there to be ratified at this meeting.
Hey, Mayor, I noticed that you signed off on that.
I did.
Did our engineers not sign off on it as well?
All I did
That
was
is-
sign off on the
The
payment.
digital copy is actually in the mail, with the original signatures, so I was able to get the, that's the reason the signature missing. I have the engineer signature
Yeah.
in my hand, but I wasn't able to prepare that for the, council meeting.
That'll probably come swinging in about tomorrow. Or day after
UPS
tomorrow.
should show up tomorrow with it.
We do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine,
Yes.
Daughtry,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
McManus, Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion, we accept the payment number 4 for the Franklin Park pool improvements in the amount of $59,218.25. It includes the above change order from Everett Strange Construction, which includes $5,916.
Bill, do we know what percentage we are of being complete? What's the percentage of being?
I don't have that percentage.
The only thing we're doing, and the whole, kinda answer that question in a point, is we're encouraging, moving forward as fast as we can to make sure that that, pool house is up and done before, I guess we actually open that, Memorial Day? To make sure that our children, have someplace to go in the summer, and, we're encouraging Chad and them to move as quickly as we can, their weather permitting, stuff like that, and so forth. They've been going right along on schedule, so Chad might have a percentage, I don't. I
Right
certainly
now,
don't.
our, biggest linchpin is the weather, and as soon as we can get it covered, the timeline will speed up exponentially. We don't wanna, do any masonry when the weather's too cold, and that's the only thing that slowed us down at all. I wouldn't say that we're off schedule at all right now, but if we hit a cold snap, that might happen. But once it's under cover and we can heat it, then I have full confidence that we'll have it complete on time.
Do you know what percentage it is of being complete?
I can get that back to you. I have it in my office. I didn't bring it with me tonight.
Then our next sheet, maybe they can give it to us.
I will. I will give you a overall
Yeah.
issue.
Okay, we do have a motion, we do have a second. Call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine, Daughtry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
McManus, Midnight,
Yes.
and myself.
Yes.
Mayor, that concludes the Park and Rec report.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Department heads. Chief Massey, if you.
Go, sir.
I think you got something going on in that back row back there.
They can't even call that.
Mr. Gentlemen, I don't wanna know. Just keep it to yourselves. Mr. Morris,
This time, sir.
Mr. Barrett,
No, sir.
Mr. Frank,
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Ken, you have anything? Chad, you have anything else?
On the 4th, we discussed the Safe Route to School program.
Yes.
Is that to be addressed this evening or at a later time?
Not tonight.
You can bring it up as far as, just an informational type thing, we won't be able to do anything
We
about
covered
it.
that on the 4th, I understand.
Yeah. We will be having another water line street on the 17th,
Yes, sir.
And a Park and Rec,
and a park and rec, and an industrial.
yes.
Hearing nothing from our department heads, old business.
I got some things on old business. Since Chad's here, 10th Street Blacktop. Yes.
I think it's still in the governor's office, I'm not sure. I mean, not to be, it's been, I guess the work's been done as far as the engineering. I think the contract was let.
Have we paid our part, or?
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We're still waiting.
Yeah, we paid our part 3 years ago.
Yep. On the apron.
Yeah.
And I have not heard one word. I don't even know who, at this point right now, I mean, I don't even know who is supposed to be over IDOT. Now, I think they have a director of IDOT that's been named, but we don't have a contact right now. Hopefully, you know, we were on schedule, we had conversations with IDOT, and then time kinda lapsed before, the asphalt season went out. But we have not heard any word, but we do know that, it was appropriated, and so I guess we'll just have to wait now. We got, another month and a half to 2 months before, the asphalt and stuff, the companies actually open back up for production. Hopefully in, early spring, they can do that, but really, I mean,
Just have to wait and see.
as far as it's coming down, I mean, that's just one little section and of Highway 45 that, a lot of it's coming all the way out of Vienna. So, hopefully it's not going to be a dead mute issue.
Well,
Hopefully.
And then, what about, have we heard any more on Hunter as far as their sand and gravel down here?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything definitely. I think they have, and I'm always leery to say it because I'm not in those, Port District meetings. But I do think they have a little bit of a issue right now with, Hunter.
Okay.
But they do understand that if, the initial project of what you gentlemen approved is altered or changed in any way, the other proposal will have to come back to you for consideration and approve if it is a different project. And we have had that discussion.
And
So,
then
right now, I don't know.
Then my last one's our 10th Street project out there as far as the old Thames building. Did that go anywhere?
I think
you
that's
just
kinda
stirred it up
tied,
tonight, aren't you?
No, I just,
I'll just put it this way.
Stirred it up.
There's not been any decision that hasn't gone through a committee meeting. There's nothing hid, no agenda that's, and I I think part of it was tied in with Hunter,
Okay.
because
Yeah,
they were going to use the grocery part of that out that barge. I think that's kind of waiting to see what happens there.
Okay.
You know, my last conversation with Mr. Barnes, he was still interested. I think they had been talking to the Port District, because he was actually going to use that loading barge for the project that he had. So that's kind of slowed down. I think he has, my last conversation with him was that, they were still wanting to proceed. He was in the process of buying another company out that actually services out of Duca. And that was about the last thing we had at the committee meeting. I haven't heard anything since. I did have a conversation this afternoon with a gentleman that was, looking in the, project in the industrial park that Wixley went to a committee. They have some different investors. We hadn't heard from him for a while. Mr. Barfield actually asked me today about that. I did talk to him today. His other people has kinda, fell apart, so we may be back to square one on the industrial park.
Very good, so,
I got some more, Mr. Mayor, I'll hold off on that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Any other old business? Any questions? New business?
Got- Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead, you,
Everybody got a
all right,
phone?
You're on a roll, Jerry.
Everybody got a phone?
oh, you got breath?
I got my committee together, got it in place as far as our housing, and I'm gonna meet with Miss Maggie Hallett tomorrow. So, we plan on having a meeting next week, but we're gonna have to wait till the following week, cause we've got too many scheduled already. So I want Mr. Abel and the mayor to be here when we call that meeting. So it'll be the following, probably on the 24th. No, you can't do it on Tuesday, though, can you? Okay, I'll pick out a date. Okay. We may have to do it on Wednesday or Thursday. No, you're gonna be out of town. But we'll come up with a meeting and, get it together. But we got it in place, it's all ready to go.
Good.
Any other new business?
Yes, sir, I have one item. Metropolis City Tourism Commission will meet here in these chambers tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. Tourism. Hopefully, maybe, we can actually, I'll try to find out, Mr. Abel might, if he actually talks to Mr. Kruger, and see if we can get just a, I don't know if they know any more than what we know right now, but, we did have a conversation about the, projects on the river, and see if they move forward or whether they're still stalled or what. And I just really don't know.
He could probably give us an update next week at the, industrial committee meeting, I would say.
Maybe we can ask him to come over and actually,
That'd be good.
there won't be anything to vote on or anything like that, but he can actually give us a little update. And that's unfortunate, because that thing was, they kept needing it, and now then, you know, something's happened that probably we don't know about, but. Any other new business? Miscellaneous reports. Financial report, payment of salaries, payroll, and contract bills.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Corzine. Second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes?
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Next item, payment of miscellaneous bills.
Make that motion as well.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Corzine, second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Let's go course, I know we have no need for an executive session. Reminder, City Hall will be closed on Monday, February the 16th to observe President's Day. And we will be having committee meetings on Tuesday, the 17th. We will be having a Park and Rec. I believe we finally decided, Danielle sent the email out today. I think the Park and Rec is at 1. I think the water light and, let me see, industrial, I think, is at 1:30. And the water light and street is the last one, and that's actually at 2. And I think that's what we decided, where we can keep them in order, where we didn't make everybody sit around and get, there was only about one item on each, of the others, and that way we can, get those in, get them out, where they can live. If we have no other thing for the good of the cause, we need a motion to adjourn.
So I'll second.
Mr. Design. And Mr. McManus. That's number one. Number two, call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Rotary,
Yes, ma'am.
Paul,
Yes.
McManus, Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.